Hello everybody, welcome back once again. I've got a quick character ranking video for you here. So I've never done a character ranking on any game that I've played, so this will be the first. So anyways, I wanted to do a little ranking video here based on 4 different criteria. One is utility, one is gear, one is story impact, and then the final one is base stats. Now, the base stats and the gear are kind of related, but I still think that they're really 2 separate things. So as you might expect, I've rated Umaro as the worst character in the game for multiple reasons here. Number 1. His utility is a 0. So generally the utility, I should explain it a little bit further, but utility to me is really mostly based on their secondary job command, or unique job command, however you want to state that, right? So like Edgar, it's tool, Sabin, it's blitz, so on and so forth. So Umaro just doesn't have one, right? He is a berserker. You can't control him at all, which is actually another issue with him and why I think he's not that good, but... so yeah, again, as far as utility, I'm giving him a 0. For gear, I'm going to go with a 0 as well. You can't even equip anything on him aside from relics. So in terms of gear, he's probably actually the worst character, even though he can use the snow scarf, which is actually really good. Story impact, he gets a 0. He is not useful to the story at all. You can play through the entire game and never even recruit him. And then base stats, he actually shines. So I gave him a 4 there. He's got, so I've had a 23. So basically what I did was I added up his base evasion and base magic evasion. And that's what I've done for everybody. The trick here, though, with Umaro is that this snow scarf is actually giving him 10 magic evasion. So his base magic evasion is actually only 5. So you add the 5 to the 18, you get 23. So yeah, so that is Umaro is to me is the worst character in the game. Next up is actually Cyan, which is kind of funny because I've always really liked Cyan, at least in the early or when I was when I was younger and I was a kid, I really liked Cyan. But as I learn more about the game and kind of how he works, I think that he is not very good. So in terms of utility, I've got him at a 1. So his Bushido. Early on in the game is actually pretty good. Sky and, let me just see here, I can't remember all of his other abilities. Bushido. Yeah, Sky and Fang are pretty good. The problem with Bushido, and it can be kind of solved by using the quick spell, but it's really annoying that in order to make this kind of function well at all, you have to be casting quick. So that's one thing that really annoys me. But the problem with these is, so in earlier versions of the game, while you're in battle, your Bushido gauge would charge, right? And you'd have this like a charge meter that you could actually visibly see. But the problem is you have to sit there and wait for it to charge up while combat is happening. And so that's probably the biggest issue with Bushido, right? And so the farther you go, the longer these take to charge, and the more time that enemies have to act and whatnot. So that's why I think that generally Bushido is pretty crappy. These first ones, like Fang, you can use it right away, right? There's no charge time to that. You just hit it and boom, it goes. But Sky takes a little bit of time, and these get progressively worse. So that's, I think, why... Cyan is only going to get a 1 in terms of utility. His gear, I gave him a 3. This is probably higher than he really deserves. But the problem with Cyan is that his weapons are all pretty bad, aside from his best one. So the Mutsuno Kami actually gives him 20 physical evasion, which is okay, actually, and better, certainly better than some other characters. But that's honestly Cyan's biggest issue, is his main hand weapon, or his weapon, just only is going to give him 20 evasion. And then I guess one, kind of nice thing about him though too is he can use the force armor, so he gets, or I give him a little bit of extra points in terms of, so he's pretty average in terms of gear. Story impact, I'm only giving him a 1. Cyan just doesn't play a huge role in the story. More than some, certainly, but less than others. And then his base stats, I'm giving him a 0. The fact that he it's basically a 7 for his evasion stat here. Let's just remove this. Yeah, so his physical evasion is a 6 and his magic evasion is a 1. He's I don't know if he's not the worst character in terms of evasion, but I think he's the second worst. So I think Edgar is the worst. So he gets a flat 0 for his base stats for a total of 5. So that is Cyan is basically number 13. Next up is Sabin. Sabin's big issue is his gear. Let's just find. So Sabin's utility though is a 3. Well, I guess I should have started there, right? So. And that's his Blitz command, right? Blitz is actually really, really good. It's good early game. It's good end game. It's just good the whole way through. I guess I should say, like, in terms of the way I think about this stuff too, it's oftentimes due to the fact that I like to do it's basically a low-level challenge until the very end of the World of Balance, meaning that you're not going to get many of his blitzes at all until the very end of the World of Balance, in terms of the way that I play anyway. So Aura Cannon is really, really good. Probably his best early game blitz, at least until you level him a bit and get Rising Phoenix. And then Rising Phoenix ends up being very, very good as well. Chakra I don't really use a whole lot. Razor Gale is actually also really, really good. It's basically a wind element, and there are very few ways to get a wind elemental attack, and Sabin just happens to be one of them. And then the rest of this stuff I don't use. I mean, Soul Spiral is actually completely crap. Sacrifices self to fully heal all of that's just garbage. Why would you? I mean, that's nonsense. And then Phantom Rush is actually amazing as well. So anyways, let's see what else. So his gear is a 0. That's because his gear is terrible. He cannot get any physical evasion out of any of his weapons, and so that is terrible. It's actually he's got literally the worst basically gear in the entire game, and it's simply because he can't get any evasion out of his main hand. His story impact, I'm giving him a 1. A little bit less impactful than like someone like Edgar, right? But also more than like a Gogo or a Yumaro, so some minor impact there. And then his base stats is actually a 2, and that's because he's got a basically it's a 16, right, for his evasion, which is the 12 plus the 4. I should say, also I'm not considering people's like agility or stamina or magic or strength, because these stats you can actually change with Espers. But the evasion and magic evasion are just like, that's your base, right? There's no way to get around this other, and I mean, obviously you can get gear to increase these, but that's why I'm saying, base stats. Obviously some people like Locke have really, really good agility, which you might find some of that stuff good in terms of, base stats, but I don't think that those are as relevant as evasion and magic evasion. So that's also why I kind of look at it that way. He gets an overall 6. So, not one of the worst, but he is. He's one of the worst characters in the entire game. And maybe I'm a little too hard on him because his blitz is so good, but that's where he ended up. Setzer is up next. So he's number 12 or something like that. I think that Setzer is generally pretty bad. He is. I do give him a 3 though for his utility, only because he's the one that gets you your airships, right? And actually, that is very, very nice and absolutely a must. But that's a different way of looking at utility, right? Than I kind of looked at it for everybody else, right? Because again, utility for me is more usually. Is more about their secondary job command. And in Setzer's case, it's the slots, and I think slots are almost completely worthless. I think for one thing, the fact that you can just completely get a game over based on if you're kind of unlucky with the slots, that's a huge issue for me. And so that makes that command very, very bad. And then on top of that, he can get there's a relic for him that changes his slot command to is it whatever GP Rain, or that, at least that's what it used to be called. But you can throw your money to deal damage. Now that's okay. And certainly, actually, with the Pixel Remaster, it probably is a little bit better because it's just easier to get money, right? You can crank up your gil rate to like ×4 or something like that. So that does make it a little bit better. But I still think that and that's actually I guess that's the end of the world of balance. I think that you can get that, but I don't know. I don't really like Setzer because of that. His gear actually is I've got him at a 3. That's probably honestly a little bit too high. He's probably actually only really a 2. For one thing, so he can use the Gladius, which is the only way that he can get evasion in his main hand. But also he does, or is one of the characters that can use the Force Armor. So I give him a little bit of credit there. But honestly, he probably only really deserves a 2 for his gear. Story Impact, he's a 1. To be fair, though, to him, again, mostly because of the airships, and even in the World of Ruin, he does play a very small role right away, right? You basically, you've got he actually ends up being your 4th character and required, which is not the case for everybody, right? You can actually beat the game, especially in the World of Ruin, with very few characters. I guess technically only those 4, right? Because once you get the airship, you could go in and take out Kefka, but I'm still only really giving him a 1 there because he just doesn't play a very big role. In his base stats, I'm giving him a 1 only because he can get to 10, right? So his evasion plus his magic evasion is 10. Okay, so next up is Strago. I think I've got Strago's at number 10. I actually kind of like the fact that his lores are pretty good. So in terms of utility, I think I've given him is it a 3? Strago, where is Strago? Strago's a 3, yeah. So for one thing, he gets Aquabeth right away, which says deal wind and water damage. Now, it's actually tough to get wind and water damage just kind of generally in this game, right? So the fact that he actually starts out with it is pretty good. Also, his Mighty Guard is pretty interesting. Cast Shell and Protect on all allies. That's pretty nice, right? Being able to just pump out both. And then like Discord, right? So unleashes sound waves and that have the enemy's level. Now, that's pretty niche ability, right? But there are some instances where it's nice to have Strago, or you can bring Strago along to have the enemy's level so that you can steal a little bit easier. So I think that's actually pretty cool. So again, that's why I give him a 3 for his utility. His gear is actually okay. He is one of the characters that can use the Swordbreaker. Swordbreaker is probably one of the better weapons for the World of Ruin, giving you a plus 30 to your physical evasion. So that's pretty solid. The only issue that he's got probably is coming from his like actual chest slot. Probably the best is the Magus Robe because it's going to give you the extra 10 magic evasion. Your other option is the Mirage Vest, but everybody can use that, so not much of an advantage there. Story Impact, I'm only giving him a 1. Strago is just not one of the bigger, or doesn't have that big of a role in the story in general. And then his base stats, I'm giving him a 1 because he's got basically it's a 13 here for his, evasion plus his magical evasion. So, so that is Strago. Realm is up next. So Realm is number 9. I've given her the 9. So her utility is only a 1. So the funny thing is, I think the sketch command, aside from the Ultros fight, which is that's how you win that fight, right? The first, like it's right after you right after you get her or recruit her, right? So other than that, though, I don't really like sketch. I think it's just generally a bad secondary option. Now she does get a little bit better once she gets the fake mustache. So it says changes sketch to control. Now also, though, control is kind of crap, other than if you're trying to teach Strago lores. So that's why I'm giving her only a 1 in utility. Her gear, it's basically the same as Strago, so I'm not even going to go over that, right? She gets the same gear options, essentially, as Strago does. So she's kind of middle of the board in terms of gear. And then her story impact is really only a 1. Again, same thing. She just doesn't play a large role in the story kind of overall. Her base stats, though, are pretty good. She's actually got she's one of the top characters in terms of base stats. So her physical evasion plus magical evasion there is a 20. Was that a 22? Yeah, so I'm giving her quite a bit of credit because of that. Next up is actually Gogo. I love Gogo. It's kind of a shame that, kind of because of my criteria, Gogo is a little bit lower than I feel like it merits. Right? I think Gogo is absolutely fantastic in terms of utility. One of the best in the game. There's very few 5s in terms of utility for me, but Gogo is one of them. And the reason for that is Gogo can change his commands. I think that steel tools are really good. Magic is pretty good as well. You could maybe make a case for lore. The problem with Gogo is that you can't equip espers on him, her, it. And so your base stats are never going to change, right? You're just kind of stuck with the magic stat the way it is, which is the magic and physical stats, right? So they're stuck there. So that's Gogo's real issue. But that said, you can do things like steal, which it doesn't matter what your physical or magic stat is, right? You can still get a lot of use out of a second thief. Now, obviously, Locke can steal as well, but sometimes, the steal rates are not that great, and it can really help you out by having a second character with steal. Also, I should say Mimic, right, is amazing. Basically, you can do like a dual cast with a character to cast Ultima twice or whatever, and then Gogo can mimic it, and he or she or it will cast Ultima twice as well. Or use something like an Esper, right? So like Ragnarok. If you decide to take that, which I generally never do, and I don't think that's that great of an idea, but if you do, you can cast Ragnarok, and then you can mimic with Gogo, and then defend with all of your characters, and then once it gets to the original character that had used Ragnarok, you just defend with that character as well, and then auto battle will allow you to mimic Ragnarok over and over and over until it's successful. So very, very cool thing there. And then tools, obviously I absolutely love tools. That one of the best secondary abilities in the entire game. Specifically, I really like that debilitator. Unfortunately though, it's Gogo's auto crossbow or flash aren't going to be as strong as Edgar's, just because again his base stats are stuck where they're at. But I can't say much more about Gogo. I actually probably should have given him a 10 in terms of utility because it's so good. But it is what it is. As far as gear, I'm giving Gogo a 3. Gogo can use the Swordbreaker. Actually, very similar gear to Realm and Strago. Magus Robe or Mirage Vest. And so Gogo ends up being pretty good in terms of gear. Or maybe I should just say middle of the road. I am giving Gogo a 0 for story impact, though. You don't even need to recruit Gogo, and there just is no impact whatsoever. Base stats, I'm giving Gogo a 2 because he ends up with a 16. That's 10 evasion and 6 magic evasion there. Pretty good character overall. Kind of thought that he'd end up or Gogo would end up being a little bit higher, but it is what it is. Mog ends up at number 7. I do like Mog. In terms of utility, though, giving Mog a 2. Mostly because, in kind of similarly to Setzer, in that Mog gets a way, well, kind of like an additional thing, not necessarily right. Obviously, Mog's secondary command is Dance, and Dance is okay, but it's got the issues that that a couple of the other characters do, like Umaro and Gao, where once you start dancing, you can't control him anymore, and that's a pretty huge negative for me. I don't like that. But Mog does have some very interesting dances. I really like Twilight Requiem. There's one of the abilities basically just opens up a hole in the ground and swallows up the enemy. So very, very cool stuff. And then there's some other stuff. Some of these can heal. Here, like Force Nocturne says, here's ally status ailment. Basically, what ends up happening is every dance has 4 different actions to it, and the game will, select one of those 4 to happen. Which again is one of the other reasons why that it kind of isn't that great, right? Because it can be very inconsistent, and a lot of times he just won't do what you want him to do. So that's why I don't really like that. But another kind of weird or a different way, again, and I say utility, but I'm usually talking about that secondary job. But there is another aspect to utility here in terms of Mog with the Molulu's Charm. So it prevents all random enemy encounters. Now, for the Pixel Remaster, that's not as good, right? Because that relic is actually completely redundant in this version of the game, because we can just turn encounters off anytime we want anyway. So that's not as good as it used to be, but still good. All right, so Mog gets a 5 for gear. Mog is one of only 2 characters that can get... Well, I shouldn't say that. There might be more, but 2 that I know of for sure that... are able to get a full 255 for their defense stat, which makes them basically immune to physical damage. So there you have 255 there. Genji helmet, Genji shield, snow scarf. There's other ways to do this too, but Mog is one of the easiest characters to get that 255. So I'm giving him the 5 there. Story impact, he gets a 0. You don't even get Mog. I mean, I guess he helps out for about 2 seconds at the very beginning of the game when you are protecting Terra from the enemies down there in the cave. But at that point, you don't even get him until the very end of the World of Balance. Again, he just basically has no impact on the story, really. So. And then base stats, though, I am giving him a 4. He ends up with a 22, very, very similar to, or I guess exactly the same as Realm in terms of his evasion stats, right? So 10 and 12 there. That is Mog. Okay, next up is Terra at number 6. I really like Terra. She's got some issues, though, in terms of utility, or specifically her secondary command. I think is pretty bad. For the little bit of time that you get to use her, right, and that's also part of her problem, is she's gone for a pretty good chunk of the first part of the game, or at least the World of Balance. But when you do finally get her back, she has the Morph command. And basically that just amplifies her physical or magic damage, which is cool, but it's also timed, right? So it doesn't last forever. So in terms of her utility, I only gave her a 1. I do like to play the lower level challenges, though, and so when you do get Morph, it actually is very, very powerful. Specifically like the Flame Eater fight, very, very good. You morph her and then either blast it with, ice spells or whatever. But when you finally do get it, it's pretty nice. But also towards the end of the game, it ends up being pretty worthless because you're pretty much doing maximum damage anyway, regardless of whether you're morphed or not. So I'm only giving her a 1 there. For gear, though, she gets a 5. So pretty much anybody that can use an Illumina, or the Lightbringer, I guess it's called in this game, you're going to get a 5 for me. Best weapon in the game, not even close. I mean, the fact that this thing's got 50 physical evasion and 50 magical evasion as well is just gigantic. So, again, anybody that can use the basically anybody that can use the library, you're at a default of 5 for the gear impact for me, or the gear score. Also, she does get the Minerva Bustier as well. Pretty good ability here. Blocks damage from multiple elements, provides a 25% bonus to maximum MP. The MP part of that is basically worthless, but it also does get you the 10 magic evasion, so pretty good there. Story impact, I'm giving Terra a 5. Basically, the first half of the game is essentially based around Terra. She's the one, obviously, that you start out with at the very beginning of the game. She does take off for a little while there, right, where she's kind of zooming around as an Esper, but once she comes back, she's, solid, and she'll have that morph ability. And then for her base stats, though, I'm only giving her a 1. She's got a 12, a lousy 12. They're 5 physical evasion, 7 magical evasion. So overall, though, again, she ends up being at spot 6. Next up is Gao. So Gao is number 5 for me. Gao for utility. I don't remember, what did I give him here? I gave him a 3. Okay, so part of that is because of his rage, right? So rage is very, very versatile in that a lot of these rages can do all kinds of different stuff, right? So like Templar, for instance, has like a base, or it always has protect active, and then it can use fire too. So you can actually use fire too right away, right when you get Gao, which is pretty wild, right? It takes a while after that point for you to start getting into those kind of tier 2 spells. Also, things like the guard leader are able to cast Wind Slash, which, again, not very many ways of getting wind type attacks in the game, and so that's why I think Gao is really, really good. This just, all of his different rages give him so much versatility. The trick, though, and the kind of crummy part, is you got to know what you're doing. You got to know what these rages actually do, otherwise, you'll be casting, casting fire spells on something that's going to absorb fire is a huge issue. So it can be a kind of a double-edged sword in that way, right? It can be kind of tough to do what you want. So that is Gao for utility. Gear is a 5. So very similar to Mog, very, very easy to get him to 255 defense. Snow Scarf, Genji Helm, Genji Shield, that'll get you to 255 right there. So again, a 5 there. For story impact, though, I'm giving him a 0. Basically, once you get Gao and you jump into the Serpent Trench, at any point after that, when you go back to the Veld, you can leap him off onto the Veld, and then that's it. You don't need to use him for anything else. In fact, you could leap him onto the Veld as soon as possible, and then never see him again, and there would be no impact on the story whatsoever. So he gets a big fat 0 there. And then for his base stats, though, he's literally number 1. He has the best evasion stats in the entire game, with a base physical evasion of 21 and base magical evasion of 18. The only person that even comes close is Shadow. But Gao is by far number 1. Not even close there. Next up is Edgar. Edgar for utility, I'm giving him a 5. His tools are insane. They're so good. Especially, again, if you're playing like a low-level, kind of like a low-level walkthrough. The tools are just very, very good. Drill, being able to kind of ignore defense. Auto crossbow, hitting all enemies, but is physical oriented. Chainsaw can sometimes one-shot things. Flash is magical based, but hits everything. My favorite, probably, though, is the Debilitator. Assigns a random elemental weakness to an enemy. It's pretty wild, so if something can absorb fire, but you give it a fire elemental weakness, well, you can bounce its own spells back and basically make it, kill itself. So again, very, very good there. His gear, I'm giving him a 5, mostly because he can use the Illumina, I always want to say Lumina, but the Lightbringer. Also, if you're wondering why I've got 21 of those, well, save state editors are a thing. And then, so like Force Armor as well, very, very good. I mean, Edgar has absolutely great gear choices. Problem, though, is he gets a 0. I'm sorry, no, we're at story impact. I'm jumping the gun here. Story impact is a 3. He actually plays a pretty big role in the game from the very beginning all the way until the end. You know, one of the 4 characters that you absolutely have to get in the second part of the game, and so I'm giving him a 3 there. But his base stats, 0. He has literally the worst base stats of everybody in the game, at only a 5 or a 4 for evasion and then a 1 for magic evasion. He literally has the worst evasion of everybody in the game. Next up is Shadow. In terms of utility, I gave him a 3. Mostly because of his, you know, the ability for him to throw things. Basically, I always build Shadow with magic first, so that he can deal damage with Flame Scroll, Lightning Scroll, and water. I actually really like the fact that he's able to use the water scrolls because, again, and I've mentioned this before, but it's actually tough to be able to get water damage on a character. So he's a little bit unique there, and also, you know, basically the scrolls are more or less multi-target magic spells, and so you don't need to use MP for them, right? You can just throw them and you'll do, you know, whatever it is, like the flame, and it'll hit everything. So that is why I gave Shadow a 3 there in terms of utility. His gear, I gave him a 5. Shadow has some really good gear options. Namely, the Swordbreaker he can use, the green. Well, everybody can use the Green Beret, and then he's got some like you can use Genji armor on him. You're probably better off using a Mirage Vest though. And you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably gave him a little bit too high of a score here for his gear. He should probably really only be about a 3, honestly. So I don't know if that would, let's see if that would bump him down. So that'd be 6, 7, 8, 13. Not really. It would probably put him on par with Gao and Edgar. Yeah, but it wouldn't be that much different, to be honest. But yeah, I think giving him a 5 for gear was too much. I think that he makes more sense around a 3, maybe even a 4. Story impact, I gave him a 2. That's also probably too high. But he does play a pretty big role, specifically towards the end of the World of Balance, in crushing Kefka in between some statues. So maybe I gave him a little bit too much impact there, but yeah, I think that's probably fair. He probably only deserves about a 1, but we're just giving him the 2 for pushing for crushing Kefka there and kind of saving everybody right at the end of the World of Balance. And then at base stats, he definitely deserves the 5 though. At a whopping 37 here. Is that right though? Yeah, that is. 28 physical evasion, which is just gigantic, and then 9 magical evasion. So, again, second to best combined evasion stats of all of the characters in the game. All right, so next up is number 2, Celes. I give her a 5 in terms of utility. Her runic command is just so good. It's an absolute must for certain fights. Specifically for sure for tunnel armor, right? You cannot beat again, I'm thinking in terms of low-level games where I haven't, leveled at all. Again, very, very early in the game. So tunnel armor, absolute must. You can't survive that fight without runic. I don't think it's even possible. Like, I guess maybe unless you got crazy lucky and all it ever used was like physicals on you or something like that. But I just think that that's so unlikely that it's not really going to be a thing, right? Also, there's times like the Ifrit Shiva fight, it's not as relevant there, only because you can use Reflect Rings, but still, I'd rather use Runic to absorb those spells, because if you're bouncing those spells off of your own characters, the problem is they're going to heal Ifrit and Shiva, so, it's a pretty big deal there. Number 24, a little bit less relevant for that as well, because I think you've got Berserk at that point. I think, anyway. Or at the very least, you can use Imp on him, right? And so it's not 100% needed, but there's just a couple of times. Also, that I should say that first Kefka fight, well, I don't know if it's technically it's not technically the first Kefka fight, right? Because you fight Kefka during Sabin's scenario, but I'm not going to count that one. The one where you're protecting Banon in Narshe. Again, don't know if it's 100% needed for that Kefka fight, but boy does it help, because he can do some really nasty spells like Confuse on your character. So pretty big deal there. And then for gear, I give her a 5. Again, same reason as the other characters. If she can use a Lightbringer, anybody that can use a Lightbringer is an automatic 5 for me. Story impact, she also gets a 5. She's just huge. She's one of the... she plays one of the biggest roles in the entire game in terms of storyline. Not only in the first half of the game, right? It's the, she was... first the general that came over to the Returners, and then Kefka tries to claim that she was acting as a spy the whole time, and she wasn't. So, and there's a lot of interaction between her and Locke. And then the second part of the game, I think she's just generally kind of the main character for the second half, for the World of Ruin, right? You start out as her. Or basically she is the one that kicks all of the events off. And so again, that's why I'm giving her the 5 there. And then her base stats, she gets a 2. She's at a 16 there, the 7 and 7 plus 9, right, for her evasion. So giving her the 2. And then number 1, yeah, that's right, you guessed it, Locke. I actually didn't think that Locke was going to end up being number 1 here, but just the way that I scored it, he ends up being number 1. So in terms of utility, I give him a 5. I love stealing. I just think that, like Kazakiri from number 128, right? There's only 2 of them in the game, and the only way that you can get both of them is by stealing, that one. So, also lots of other really, really good things to steal in the game. You can steal Celestriads, I won't name them all, but I think that generally, or from the very beginning of the game, right when you get him all the way to the end, the steal command is pretty useful. And then again, gear, same as everybody else. Anybody that can use a Lightbringer automatically gets the 5 for me. Story impact, I'm giving him a 4. I think he just has an oversized impact on the game, right? There's the stuff with Rachel. There's his relationship with Celeste. Maybe probably the second half of the game, it's not as he's not as impactful. But you get the Phoenix Esper when you recruit him, or re-recruit him, I guess I should say. And so yeah, again, he plays a very, very large role. Maybe not as big as someone like Terra or Celeste, but he's way up there. So I gave him the 4. And then his base stats, I give him the 3. Mostly because, without anything else, he's at a 17 for evasion and magic evasion. So very, very low on the magic evasion, but the 15 there for the physical. Also, going back to the gear thing, he can also equip the force armor and Lightbringer. So great combo there. But that's my tier list. I actually really didn't think that Locke was going to be that high, and I kind of thought Edgar might be a little bit higher, but just because of actually the problem with Edgar was his his base stats are just so bad that he really got knocked down there. But anyways, that's my list. As always, hope the guide's helpful. Thanks for watching.